Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host, GamerK, and it is the final video for the month of June. I had my community Greek Fest for the last 2 weekends, and it was a big success, very tiring. So, now it's time for me to kick back and relax this summer while also working and, doing these videos. So, at least it's not that busy. So now I want to do another video where I give ideas for sequels of a video game that may or may not come to fruition. Again, these are just my ideas. I have no notes from my iPad. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just kind of spitballing right off the bat. One series I got into very, very late was the Persona series. I saw people talking about the 4th game. I saw the anime. I loved it. And then I played Persona 5, and I think last year, I finally beat Persona 5 after restarting it, because I wanted to do all the confidants, complete max level. I missed the one side mission, because I kind of didn't do my time that perfectly, but at the same time, I loved it. And no, I am not playing Persona 5 Royal. As much as people talk about it, there are a couple things that Royale did great. I watched it, and that was having the Maruki section and having Crow come back for the final, and us finally getting him in his wicked, wild, psychotic form, which I love. Hence the artwork of him there, if you can't tell, with Loki. And so yeah, Maruki, the final, and having a Ketchi come back were some of the best moments. But one big thing that I noticed is that they changed the boss fights, the main boss fights, a lot. Having the Shiho as a bunny girl, having the Madarame split into elementals, having 2 bodyguard flies help out Kaneshiro, having a robot version of Haru for Okumura. I get it was supposed to add an extra level of challenge, but the boss fights were already challenging enough, so I don't see why they needed it. And then Persona 5 Strikers came out, and didn't play it. Again, I watched it fully, and it was so short. And plus, with an app game, I think that's coming out that continues Persona 5's whole story thing. Yeah, a bunch of things just don't fit well for me within those games. But you know what? They were still great. Fans love them, and I have no clue when we're getting a Persona 6 with any future characters, any future change of ideas. But so until that time, I think the Phantom Thieves deserve a full 3rd installment for them. Having new challenges, new enemies, a whole new threat. I don't have all the basis ideas covered yet, but I've been spitballing here and there about ideas. So to start off, it could take place maybe a year or so. Maybe they're all in their last year of high school, and then they have to, think about what they're doing in the future, colleges or anything like that. And I think it would be a great idea to have it, because from what I've seen in both Persona games Persona series that I've loved, 4 and 5, high school seems to be the common thread here. But I enjoy it, but at the same time, and then they did the whole summer vacation thing in Strikers, so maybe we continue into their final year of high school. It would be great. Again, I don't have so much of a story idea, but I think, what if some new malevolent force that Igor, what could happen is Joker, obviously, our main leader hero, is returning to town after a year away, after his probation thing, and after he's cleared, he comes back, just like in Strikers. And I think in Strikers, the the adult who becomes Wolf. Friggin' loved him, by the way. He was absolutely cool. And Valjean was a great persona. And also having the AI girl with her persona. I loved it. But maybe they could appear like later on in the game. Like not be so heavily of what the whole thing with strikers not being a whole big thing, but they come in later on to assist. That way we don't completely forget them, because strikers, even though it was really, really short, I still think it deserves to be praised. So one of the big things I'm thinking for a new Persona 5 sequel is after we get back with everyone, like everyone knows, like everyone, we have a party for our welcome home, something like that. And we just have a good night. And at the night, Igor comes back to us in the Velvet Room and tries to kind of welcome us back, and hinting that a new threat is about to come. Somehow the metaverse has reawakened within the town somehow. Either something or someone may have brought it back. And it's another mystery. And, you know, none of us go into the metaverse yet. And since strikers, everyone's personas have gotten a little bit weak, which would explain the downgrade of why we're all starting right from the beginning again with abilities and all that. So again, I do like when certain series explains why we're downgraded to our abilities before. Like either our memories were erased, or our armor was destroyed in an attack, or one of my favorites, because we're in a new area with new gadgets and everything. Yeah, sequels really love screwing us after we did so much. Oh, also, our abilities, we get our abilities siphoned from us. Yeah, these 3 games really know how to do it, don't they? So, after realizing this, we tell everyone about the dream we had with Igor, because they all were there with the Velvet Room. And, you know, it's par for the course. We have to be on the lookout for anything odd, people acting weird. And maybe the metaverse thing could have been going on for a couple months, or maybe close to a year. And let me think. Again, these are just ideas that I've been racking around. I didn't write them down. I didn't jot them anywhere. So these are like all free thinking and everything. So I think one of the first one that we should do is at the university or college that there's a field trip to. You know, kind of that thing where we can kind of see where everything is going. Like, and what the future holds for us, and where we would want to go after we're done at the high school. Now, a couple ideas came to mind because the thing about the Persona 5 series is how they mangled an area and turn it into something fantastic and fantasy-like. School turned into a castle, a shack turned into a museum. An entire area of Shibuya turned into a giant floating bank. A girl's house turned into a giant pyramid, a tomb. A food company headquarters turns into a spaceport. A courthouse turns into a casino. The Diet Building turned into a goddamn cruise liner. So I kept thinking of other ways. And Persona Strikers kind of missed an opportunity of how to transform the areas. I mean, I enjoyed the aesthetic of them. They all look kind of different, but they kind of also felt like so similar, just with a different aesthetic paint. Oh, painted over it. So yeah, and also we need to give other characters a big story plot reasons. Because in Strikers, we gave both An, Yusuke, Haru big moments to shine with the respective villain. So we need to give the other ones a big opportunity in order to do this. So I say for the university level, we could have either like a guidance counselor who guides young. Nope, we already did that with Maruki and Royale, so that's not gonna work. So either like one of the professors or one of the alumni of the university could maybe see himself as someone who's cranking out students by I'm trying to think of the words. Crank them out, and he's because there was an episode of Law and Order where I kind of took reference from, where this administrator was taking bribes so certain children would get accepted to these exclusive schools, while others who did great but were kind of poor-ish were rejected. So this person saw himself as shaping up young minds, and kind of taking inspiration from Okumura for a little bit. Yeah, I know. I'm taking reference from what people say is one of the worst bosses in the game, and I get that. So maybe this guy sees the university as his own robot factory, where he's cranking out young minds and students to be sent into other workforces, and he gets a cutback. But also he stresses out the students. He makes them work super hard. Like, you know, that kind of pressure that is put on students to excel beyond their capabilities, and sometimes they break. And after hearing about something that happened to a student that Ryuji knew years ago, like he was a senior when Ryuji was a junior. So this could definitely be Ryuji's moment to really shine on against the villain. So it's a robot factory, and the villain in his shadow form could see himself as this super intelligent scientist or robot builder, kind of like Dr. Frankenstein, saying that he's created these amazing works to be sent out into the world. So what if some of them crumble, some of them break down? That's life. Not everyone's gonna make it out. To where Ryuji says that it's bullshit and that you're basically stressing them out on purpose just to see who can make you the most money, who can benefit you. You're using their stress and their success to benefit you. Something like that could really make these boss battles great. And I really love how Strikers had the whole open world combat system, but it kind of made the boss fights feel a little down and a little quick half the time without the amazing moments in between, like in the turn-based systems. So I think if certain boss fights, like maybe the mini bosses, where like some smaller monsters that are created, like the shadows, could be in that kind of fight style, and we save the turn-based systems for the main bosses of the level. So we get a bit of both of Strikers and the original Persona series, but it's all melded well together, because I really wanted to see a bunch of those moments between the bosses of Strikers, but we didn't get that. And obviously, as we progress through this palace again, we would see like the darker secrets of this guy, how he was pushed so far, but he actually made it, and he ended up being better than his predecessor, so he felt he had the right to decide what students do and don't succeed. And it even shows in a greater scheme that he was sabotaging certain students so that his pupils, the ones he's been building up, would succeed better. So it kind of showcases that it's not the same thing as Kamoshida in any shape or form, but kind of in the side that he'll do whatever it takes to make sure the people he wants succeeds while the others fail, and that causes a lot of issues. So that again, brings back to Ryuji, because this guy is almost like Kamoshida, an adult who is taking his own deliberate goals against the well-being of the students of the university. That could definitely hit a chord with Ryuji, and why the boss fight would definitely impact him better. And for the Shadow's boss form, because it's a robot factory, maybe he sees himself as the ultimate I'm trying to think of the word. The perfect workforce, the perfect combination of man and machine, where it's this giant robot, but he's inside being protected. And parts of the robot kind of look like it's scrap, kind of indicating that he's protecting himself by using his former students' failures or their success in order to stop the Phantom Thieves, saying that this is because of me. I created them, so I can decide what to do with them. Something along that line would definitely work. Now, that's just the first idea. I have so many other ideas. And also, we don't get so many new characters in this game, because we already had Wolf and Sophie and Striker. So having only one new character come out later in the game would definitely benefit having the Phantom Thieves be rounded out. Especially because if we're going by the original game, Akechi's gone. But if we're going by the ending of Royal, Akechi may return. Maybe kind of have this secret, like maybe investigating why Mementos and the metaverse is still active. Maybe doing that, but not letting anyone else know what's going on, that he's still alive. That would so heavenly work. Maybe even later down along the line of the game. So as far as the new combat system, this is what, because having our abilities reduced to 0 again, and only having our main personas to start, instead of doing the Showtime attacks that happen in Royale, what if after with each of their personas, they could embody the persona, like they put their personas back into the mask, put it back on with a full charge meter, and they get like a super form attack where they kind of become the persona, or like bits of the persona are shadowed onto their form, where they do a ultimate, where it boosts, kind of like in Final Fantasy 13. Okay, I'm taking a lot of reference from some of the worst things of gaming, but bear with me. What if, after the struggle to fight tough enemies during the first set of missions, Joker kind of calls to Arsene to help him, and that's when Arsene forms forward. The mask, Arsene's power forms into the mask. Joker puts the mask back on, and his entire outfit changes to look like kind of like Arsene, with Arsene's shadow kind of merging over, kind of like how in Final Fantasy 13, when the Eidolons, like when we summon them, they act on their own, but then when we use their form change, we get to control them using a couple of special attacks, until we do their final attack. So what if we got that with the Persona 5 cast? Each of them can do like their basic moves, like they do their magic attacks, their basic attacks, but then we do our final attack where we do a super move that's cinematic, and it could be so cool. Like for Joker, by using Arsene, he cloaks himself in darkness. Arsene's wings pop out, cover Joker. He disappears. He reappears behind the enemy or the boss, strikes with his dagger as Arsene's silhouette is still behind the enemy, but while Joker moves forward, and we hear Arsene's laugh and the massive damage. Come on. I'm just spitballing, but how cool of a special attack would that be? And every single one of our characters would get that. Ryuji going up, like beating through the attacks, going up close to the opponent, and using his shotgun with Captain Kid's cannon arm. On using her whip furiously, creating sparks of flames as she whips out her whip, pulls the enemy closer, stomps on them like Carmen, and flames erupt. Yusuke being Goemon, a cold chill coming through the enemies. Yusuke draws his weapon and just walks past them all, slowly closing his sword, and strikes Goemon's pose, and ice slashes strike every enemy. Makoto just revving up with Johanna, just going full throttle with her fist attacks. Haru using her axe to strike them down, then ripping out the rocket launcher sent and shooting out so many times that she sent through the air. And then she takes one final attack, and it's all Melody's all-out onslaught. Oh my god, I got all that out so quickly. And Futaba, I got an idea for Futaba. Because she's not the combat expert, I get it. But what if we did a couple sections with Futaba? Where in certain parts of the palaces, the team gets separated. Like maybe in a labyrinth episode, or a labyrinth level, where Futaba gets separated and she has to go throughout the level sneaking around the shadows. I mean, yes, I know people hate stealth sections in certain games, but with Futaba's ability to navigate throughout the level, this way she could find the secret items, find maps of the locations faster than the others could while they're dealing with monsters. So yeah, it's a stealth section for Futaba because she is weak. But what if she gets her own mini bosses throughout each level? What if they're like the shadows of someone in the villain's mind that they repressed, and they're trying to fight back because they think the trauma's happening again. You know, it's those memories that happen. And Futaba, obviously not being able to fight, will finally don her own ability with Necronomicon, the giant UFO, where Futaba does have the saucer bits on her arms and legs. So she can do combat sections. But again, it's more in the form of how Strikers did their boss fights, where you can move around with Futaba, you shoot lasers, send the discs out to attack. And her ultimate move would be to use Necronomicon. The tentacles could pop out of her hands, snare the opponent, and use her boosters on her feet to shoot out lasers, much like a UFO would. That way it ties in so well to Futaba's persona and gives us a little bit of combat with her. I mean, come on, guys. Tell me fighting with Futaba, even for a couple sections, wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. So yeah, and after we defeat each villain, they would kind of give us a kind of, not a big hint, but just how they understood how a palace came together and how it happened. But again, none of them know. It just happened to them one day, and they didn't care. They were enthralled with the power. For our new member of the team, this is one I've been working on so much. And I love this idea. What if, obviously by doing the message board, we kind of figure out that there are accusations, because, okay, I've watched a lot of crime shows and a lot of video games where they do this kind of theme with an orphanage and everything's not, or a foster home, and everything's not exactly how it seems. So what if one of the kids who's maybe maybe around Futaba's age, so he kind of fits in with the group, but also still has a bunch of trauma that would lead him to get a persona. So this kid we bump into him during like maybe the second or third chapter of the game. He's a pickpocket. He brings the money to... We catch him, and his foster mother is there and tells us it's not to worry, she'll handle it. And when we look up this woman, she has a big reputation for taking a lot of donations and giving a lot of orphans a lot of homes. But even there, like, they even said, like, even... This is where Yusuke and Futaba will kind of work together a little bit, because Yusuke said the same thing about Madarame, and that wasn't all good. So they use the Metaverse app, type in this woman's name, and they get a match. So now obviously they have to figure out what she sees her palace as and what is the palace. So they obviously they kind of put two and two together and figure out, you know, the orphanage is obviously the palace, but what does she see it as? And this took a lot of thinking. This took a lot of concentration, a lot of kind of spitballing ideas of what could work, because I don't want to do the same thing as the other Persona games did. So they do a little recon on the woman, and she always acts so nice and pleasant. So obviously they can't get anything out of her. So what if they send someone in who could be, AKA they send Mona in, like, to spy in his cat form, like to be around the orphanage. So he comes back, and yeah, she's not as nice as she is. She's mean to the kids. She yells at them. She scolds them. She calls them stuff like stupid mutts. No one wants ones that are broken. So after putting a couple of words together, they think of one word. Pound. And so they enter the metaverse at the area, and they see this massive dog pound. Yes, I thought really long and hard about this. And basically, she sees the orphans as basically the same thing as pups, where people adopt them, but she doesn't care if they go to good homes or not. And she even gets kickbacks from the bad homes when they try to keep her, to make sure she doesn't say anything to authorities. And if the kids get sent back, they get sent right back there. And it's all blamed on the kids. It's also built in that mentality, the same way how a lot of kids in shows are viewed as always bad eggs. They can't be saved. The same thing with dogs. Whenever dogs act bad, or like in violent dog breeds, people blame the dogs. They don't blame the owners. And that's a big thing that could happen with this one. Kind of the same, again, with Yusuke and Futaba having kind of that same abusive mindset, especially when we talk about Futaba's side mission in Persona 5 with her uncle, who was terrible, who just wanted her as a meal ticket. And that's where we kind of confront the one kid who was trying to get away, and he is accidentally dragged into the metaverse. But for the shadow of the villain, I don't know 100%, but she could see like her obedient children as her obedient hounds, and they turn into like either, and a big enemies that could happen in the game are the Orthrus persona or Cerberus, because again, dogs. And after seeing, and the kid telling the Phantom Thieves, like, he returns to them at LeBlanc in order to tell what's been going on, that his parents gave him up for adoption when he was younger, and this woman took him in, and she got notoriety for taking him in. So that's when she decided to open up the orphanage to do the same for other kids. But then the money and the abuse happened, and everything got twisted. So he, much like Yusuke, he knew what was going on. Like, he saw the abuse, he knew what was going on, and he didn't do anything because he was afraid of losing the home that he had for so long. But after being dragged into the metaverse, and again, much like Yusuke, being shown how she really sees them and him as nothing but dogs to be sold off, and any of them that aren't are tossed aside, confronting her and saying that he's done, that's when his persona would reveal itself, indicating that he is not a domesticated animal. He is not someone's property. He is a wild animal that should bear its fangs to those who treated him badly. For those who poke the animal in the cage will fear once the cage is gone. And his mask, not like the traditional mask where it covers the faces, but like an enclosed mask. Kind of like a gas mask, but with spikes on it to indicate that he was seen as a muzzled dog. So he rips it off and calls out Fenrir. I thought what better persona of a thief trickster for someone who was treated like a wild dog, who was treated like a dog, than to have the dog of destruction Fenrir himself. And his persona attire could be like spiked leather gloves with sleeveless, kind of like a punk attire. Code name would be Hound, because he wants to showcase that when the hounds are out and going after the enemy. I would love it so much if this gets done, because it's such a, I'm kind of boasting about my own creativity here, but I would love this as a boss fight. I would love this as a boss area. I would love this kind of character build up, because it works. And then a couple other boss areas that I haven't put it all together yet. Oh my God, I've talked a lot about these 2 chapters that would be amazing to have. And another character who never really got a big, full rendition of a character would be Mona. I mean, yeah, we kind of got a small bit of him in Okumura's palace, but that was kind of hijacked by Haru's whole thing, so yeah, it would be great to have a level where Mona gets a time to shine against the villain. I would really love to see it. And then later on in the game, as we kind of get a little bit closer to the main villain and the main threat, Joker gets, I'm thinking again, in a labyrinth area, Joker gets separated from all the others and he has to fend off for himself for a bit. But as he's about to lose to a giant cognitive boss that the villain sent to take him out, a sick laugh comes out of the darkness and slashes the monster, dealing damage. What? I gotta save you now too? This wasn't in my description. So then Joker hazily looks up and sees Akechi in his Shadow Crow form. And he unleashes Loki and then merges with the mask and does his own special move. And then it could be a great dual boss fight with them again, just like with Maruki. And then later after the fight, Joker is shocked to see him alive and starts to poke at him to see if he's really there, and he tells him stop that. And that's when Akechi tells him that he's wondered why the metaverse has been out. And yeah, he's wondering what the heck's going on. Like, why are these significant people suddenly having palaces after a year of the whole metaverse thing with Yagsaboth or whatever his name was. But first, the big question, how are you alive? And Crow admits that, yeah, it was the whole thing with Maruki. having the world kind of reset and all would have been like, wasn't what they wanted. But in his last little bit of having the power, gave Crow one last chance to redeem himself after everything he's done. I mean, I know it's kind of bullshit cliche, and it takes out like one of the things that made Akechi great, but makes that split second scene ending of Royale's ending kind of come true. Akechi's been on his own for a year, so yeah, he's been doing it himself, figuring out about these new palaces, but not being able to fully investigate. So he took to the other part of the metaverse and tried to figure out stuff there, to no avail. And after defeating another big boss with Akechi's help, Akechi wants to see if Joker can handle this new threat. So they do one last boss fight in the same fashion again as Strikers does, going toe-to-toe with Akechi and Loki versus Joker and Arsene. We could get the boss fight the battle we should have had if Persona 5, the animation, didn't botch it. I'm sorry. I was looking forward to it, but no. We got peanuts. So after defeating Akechi in this boss fight, phone died, had to charge it, happens a lot. So after defeating Akechi in this big boss fight, he kind of tells us a little bit of what he's found. That kind of hints to the mastermind behind why the metaverse was brought back and why these palaces are bigger. The enemies are stronger. Again, I don't really have a whole story basis on it, but it would be really, really interesting to see if Atlas Games and the people behind the Persona series could definitely, if they're scouring for ideas, it would be really cool to take these ideas and push them to the next level. Other future levels that they could do, like what hasn't been done yet in the Persona series? Maybe a hospital where either a doctor or a nurse kind of has a god complex a little bit, so it's kind of transmortified. I mean, the Maruki kind of did that with a health clinic, kind of in a certain way. Maybe an asylum wouldn't work, because it always came to mind that all the places where the Persona 5 areas are things where a thief would steal from: a castle, a tomb, a museum, a bank, a spaceport, a casino, a cruise liner. So that kind of fits. And then the whole Persona Strikers levels were just the town in a different environment, like a Wonderland cityscape. Actually, the Wonderland aesthetic didn't really do much except for Alice's whole boss fight. In this medieval town, which was very cliched and poorly written. A snow palace, a giant old Japanese-themed ninja town, and then a giant futuristic city. So, taking my two palace ideas and creating ones that kind of coincide with them, it would be really cool. So yeah, from that, the story, the combat, the build-up of the combat between the turn-based battles and the hack-and-slash style battles, and to have the entire gang back for one final time before the others graduate, and maybe we can finally help out Futaba at the school. Maybe this is the year where she finally starts to be a student. And as far as the confidant thing, I mean, I'm glad that they got rid of it in Persona Strikers, because we don't need confidants while doing this in each city. But maybe we do confidant missions with our team members. And can we please make Joker and Makoto canon? Please. I mean, that whole Ferris wheel thing where we pick someone to go with. was great and all, but I think we can all agree that Makoto and Joker are perfect for each other. And I'm not saying that because I'm biased with Makoto, but I would love it. Like, have a part of the game where we finally go on a date with her, or like she asks us to talk about the previous the palaces, like the whole issues, but it's really a guise just to get us out to go out to eat, and maybe do one where if we do it enough we get a cute moment, like a kiss scene. Please, I need it. Because even in Persona Strikers, whenever she got scared, she clung to Joker's leg like no tomorrow. So, yeah, from all those ideas to having this whole year to think about Persona, these ideas, yeah, this could be a really, really interesting idea. Also, for that whole, the personas going into the mask and giving a super move, that would only work with the main personas. So, anyone wanting to do it with Yamata and Orochi or Agatama or Seth, no. It would be a special thing to work with Arsene, Captain Kidd, Carmen, Goemon, Johanna, Necronomicon, Zoro, and Melody. It would be really, really interesting to see these ideas, even if not done in this Persona and for Persona 5, maybe in the next Persona series. I mean, I'm still hoping for Persona 6. I want it to be just as amazing as the previous two. So, Atlas, don't let me down. Don't let the fans down, you know? And, yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed my ideas. I really hope some of these sound good enough to a whole bunch of Persona fans out there. So, comment down below what you guys liked about my ideas, what you didn't like. Give some of your ideas, and maybe in the future we could see these ideas and many others done in a future game. So, again, thank you for joining me for this one, guys. Like, comment, subscribe down below, and join me next month, guys, where... God, what am I doing? Oh, yeah! Join me in the next month, where I begin the month of July by going over some of my favorite... From one of my favorite card games. We're going to stand up as I go through the clans of these cards, of this card game. This is GamerK, logging out.